Yo, chill. Way too much ammo, and now I'm about to let it off. Way too much ammo, and now I'm about to let it off. Yo, chill. Yo, chill. Yo, chill. Way too much ammo, and now I'm about to let it off. Way too much ammo, and now I'm about to let it off. Yo, chill. Yo, chill. Yo, chill.
All right, let me turn this intro off real quick. All right, what's cracking? What is popping? What's shaking? And what is popping? What's shaking? Hold on, I'm getting a little feedback. Hold on, Grace. As you can see, we got Grace on the line here. So, all right, I got rid of that feedback, so we're good. And today, I'm excited about today. Grace, I've actually titled this pod for today as the CCU and the Multiverse of Madness. Okay, now when it comes down to
Okay.
the reason why I named it that is simply for the fact that both of the topics that we are going to be talking about today are coming together in this multiversal MCU world, you know? So I'm super excited to chat with everybody today about Venom and the last two episodes of What If. But before we get into that, Grace, go ahead and say what's up to everybody.
Hey everybody, how you guys been? As you guys might hear, I am coming off of a cold. So we're gonna power through today, but I'm feeling great. I'm excited. Nice to see humans. Well, a human.
Yeah.
So looking forward to this. You guys know Spider-Man, even when it's not related or in the topic, I think I bring him up in every single one of our episodes. So this episode is like, I've been living for it. Been waiting. So super excited to be here.
Definitely. Now, I would like to jump into Venom first, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Hold on. I got a few new transitions that you're gonna check out when you play this out. So just give it 1 second.
So you guys are lucky. You get to see this live. I gotta wait to watch it till later. So you guys have a treat.
Yeah. So, Venom. Just for starters, it was better than I expected. Just because as sequels go, Marvel has MCU related Marvel has had I would say a good standing when it comes to sequels. Now, this is a Sony movie, as so we thought. And when it comes down to Venom, I am a huge Tom Hardy fan. Okay, he is a great actor. Love him in everything that he's done. And Venom, the first one, it was like I liked it, but say this one, I feel like just kind of blew the first one out of the water. Like I really enjoyed this second movie. So, Grace, what were your thoughts on this movie as a whole?
I was super excited. I think Venom was it was a really solid movie for Sony. Like you said, I think MCU is very consistent when it comes to film. So with Sony, it's kind of like you don't really know if you're gonna love it, but you go in hoping for the best. But coming after the first one I was so obsessed with. I was really excited about this film.
Mm-hmm.
After watching it, so I feel like I enjoyed it just as much as the first one. The only reason this one is now like I like it more is because of the post credit scene. It's because of that post. That's what really pushed it out of the water. I enjoyed it completely.
Mm-hmm.
I love Tom Hardy. I love I'm missing his name. Carnage.
Woody
Woody.
Harrelson.
Woody. There we go. I always want to say Woody Allen, and I know it's not.
It's not.
It's not. I'm very aware
not.
they're two different people. But I was really excited with the casting, so I had big expectations, and I think they were all met. It was a really cool film.
Okay.
Really cool film. Yeah.
So before we get into the post credit scene, because as far as post credit scenes go, we usually talk about it later in the in the podcast, but I do want to knock it out in the beginning. But before we even get there, I want to chat about Andy Serkis just for a second. Okay.
Okay.
For those who are unaware, I'm gonna pull up a picture here. Boom, you can see him standing here with Tom Hardy, and Andy Serkis is a phenomenal actor. Okay, I've never really known him as a director, but this for me, I guess, is my introduction to him directing, and for me, it makes sense. The reason being is because for you all that do know him, he is famous for all of the CG movements that you can think of, from Golem to in Lord of the Rings, to he played King Kong in the Kong movie that came out early 2000s, and plenty more CG related roles. Now, as far as Venom as a movie as a whole, of course, especially when it comes down to the two characters, protagonist and antagonist, Venom and Carnage, these are, of course, going to be CG-related characters. And when it comes down to the movements of these creatures, I feel like Andy Serkis was perfect in directing and making something different. No, it didn't look human. It moved just like, I don't know, as this alien can move. You know, it was great, and I really like when I saw it in the credits at the beginning. It said directed by Andy Serkis. I was like, wait, this is the same guy who we just saw play Claw in Black Panther, you know?
I was shocked too. I never knew him as a director, but I knew him kind of as the legend behind a lot of the CGI that we see done very well.
Right.
I think I really liked the design of Venom in the first film, and if you compare his design in the first and the second, I think you can really see his influence in just adding the depth and the dimension that I think brings the character even more to life. So I think he was perfect for the film.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And honestly, I'm going to ask you this, Grace, just because as far as what we're talking about in this multiverse action here, okay, can we include him in the Phase 4 director conversation?
In the Phase 4 director conversation?
Yeah, because
what do you mean?
far in Phase 4, we have the director from, I can never pronounce his name, from Thor. He's doing a new Thor.
Taika Waititi.
Right.
Yes.
And then we have Oscar winner doing the Eternals. So as far as Andy Serkis and so far his resume, I would actually want to put him in this conversation as far as the MCU making him a director in their series. Yet this is more so wishful thinking, because Venom is more so a Sony property, and so far he's a director for Sony. But because of what we saw at the very end of this movie, I just want to kind of nudge him in that direction.
You know what? I think we can say that. I think we can pull him under, in the umbrella of these other directors that are under MCU titles, because especially with the post-credit scene, this kind of is now also a movie in the MCU, right?
Right.
So along to like your beautifully and well done title, The Multiverse of Madness. It
Yeah.
all connects. So 100%. I like that. Yeah, let's include him there.
All right.
Let's give Claw a shining, he had
Yeah.
some tough luck in episode 8, so or 7, so let's give him some love here.
Oh no, like say
Yeah.
what if series aside, I really liked him in not only Black Panther but when he was in Age of Ultron too. Like I don't know why I think it's either Australian or South African, that accent. I don't know. It's weird, but he's a cool character, He plays
You love
Claw
it.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is. He just seems like a cool
He's a
like
familiar
villain,
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a familiar actor. So I think it's one of those things with comfort. Like when you see actors that you're like, okay, I know this guy. I've seen this guy.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you like a level of comfort, and I think that's what he is.
Yeah.
So when I saw a lot of interviews of him with Tom Hardy, I didn't know he was the director until I saw a lot of these interviews coming out, and I'm like, wait a minute, because I wouldn't have recognized the name alone. I feel like it's the face for me for him.
Gotcha.
But I think it's that comfort, and it was pretty exciting to be like, oh, all right, I'm on board with this. Like I already was excited for Venom 2. I knew it was going to be awesome, but I think seeing him behind it gave it like a little bit of an extra dash of sparkle.
And that's why I wanna throw him into that conversation, just because of his style and what he's done in the past. Going forward in what's going on in the MCU, especially with Venom, Spider-Man as a character, any other character that is CG related, I feel like honestly he should be at the forefront just because of the work that he's done from his resume.
His experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, 100%.
I get Sony, if you want to hold on to him, great. But if you could just kind of let us
just
have
share
him.
him.
Yeah, share him. Let him direct. I was just randomly thinking in my car today, just because I don't know what the status with the Russo brothers are as far as if them being completely done with the MCU. But if it comes down to this phase coming together, and we just needed, say, not just one director, but a combination of the directors, I would throw him and the other gentleman. Say it one more time, please. What's his name?
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, Taika Waititi.
I love saying his name. See, like I feel like you're insecure to say it, but I'm just like, yes, I will say it every time for you. Don't you worry.
But yeah, if we can get that duo, because I would say Taika Waititi or Watiki. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the name. It's his comedy versus not versus, but along with Serkis's style combined. Yep. I feel like would be a perfect combination moving forward with anything CG or even just movie related.
Oh, absolutely. I think, I don't know, it's such a fun era. And I know that just along the lines of like directors, I know the director of the original like Spider-Man trilogy is going to come back to do Multiverse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Doctor Strange. I feel like right now we're going to see such a blend of directors that we already have a rapport with previous MCU films and projects, and then like marrying them with the talents that we're seeing bringing up right now. Mm-hmm. It's really exciting stuff, and I think it's when you have that harmony of like Sony and MCU play nice, and they create these great storylines for us. It's like it sucks when mom and dad fight. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the children in like a divorce.
I'm hurting right now.
There's always drama.
I'm being torn.
But I think that's why I think the post-credit scene, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, but the post-credit scene I think was
that was next on the agenda, because as far as what's going on, yes, everything that we're going to discuss the post-credit scene is great, and we'll get into it. But spoiler talk, why? Because I'm super excited. All right, I'm super excited to talk about. We see Tom Hardy chilling in a hotel. This hotel is run down. He's in some country. We don't know where he is. And him and Venom are having a conversation. And Venom just ups and talks about how he has the vast knowledge of this universe from him and the other symbiotes or whatnot. And we get a feeling that Venom is about to show Tom Hardy something that we've never seen before. I was thinking that maybe they were going to show something Infinity Stone related or something familiar to what we know. And then we see something happen. We don't know what it is. Eddie Brock asked Venom what it is, and Venom said it wasn't him. And all of a sudden you see scene change. He's in a different hotel room, a nicer hotel room, looks like a resort this time. And who do we see on the screen? young Spider-Man with J. Jonah
J.
Jameson.
Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, going in talking about how he killed Mysterio. Now, I wasn't expecting Venom to be connected to the MCU at all. Okay, as far
No.
as the direction of what Sony was doing, Sony has, like, they've let us have Spider-Man, you know, but that was it. They let us have Peter Parker to go into the MCU, and as far as anything else, like, I'm thinking it's just, we're gonna keep that over here. We're gonna keep it to ourselves because right now Sony has Venom, they have Morbius, they have what's the hunter's name? I forgot the other hunter that they just announced, which is coincidentally played by the same actor who played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. But I'm losing the name of the hunter. But anyway, Sony has all of these properties, and I'm thinking they're going to keep them to themselves. Now, fast forward back to this post-credit scene, we see Venom look at the TV, and he's licking the screen like he I don't know what it is about Tom Hardy, or not Tom Hardy,
Doing to Tom Holland what a
Tom
lot
Holland,
of people
Peter, aka Peter Parker, but he wants him, and that raises questions. Now, as far as the first question that I'm going to give to you, Grace, so far we have gotten the No Way Home trailer, right? And in the No Way Home trailer, we see Spider-Man in a black outfit. Now, I had a theory about this black outfit in a podcast or two before, but now I'm thinking there may be some connection to Venom, as it was in the comic book, as it was in the animated show, as it was in the poorly put together Spider-Man 3. You know, it was a black outfit which Venom had connected with Spider-Man. So that leaves me to believe that in that scene, in that little clip that we saw in the trailer, I don't know. Let's say he's with Venom. Because he's running in that black outfit. I'm thinking somehow Venom is connected to it. Thoughts?
See, I like that approach to it. Just because I feel like the team up makes more sense than him being an additional villain, especially because Peter Parker is already up against so many.
He is.
You know,
He sure
I
is.
know one side of it is like, oh, maybe Venom is the sixth, you know, Sinister Six to complete the set, right? That's what I've heard some people say. I like the idea of them teaming up alongside the other two Spider-Men to then take down the Sinister Five or Sinister Six if we get you know, someone else tagging along. I like this because it makes me happy. And also because go ahead.
I'm listening, but I'm actually pulling up the picture that I sent of the quote unquote Sinister Six, because so far we've only gotten 5. Okay, and I feel like if anything,
because those are too lame.
I feel like if anything, this would be close to the Sinister Six, or as close as we're gonna get, because if it's not Venom, then who else could it be? You know, that leaves the question of who the sixth member is. Because as you all can see, we got Green Goblin, we got Doc Ock, Sandman, Lizard, Electro, and I put Venom there. It's not official when it comes down to Venom being part of the Sinister Six, but this brings me like I want to bring it to the fact that in the animated TV show, or even the comics, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've always known Venom to be a villain. Okay, it was always something that Eddie Brock had against Peter Parker, and like I always thought of him to be a bad guy, which I kind of took note and made a note of the second question I have, which would be, is Venom, especially the Venom that's in these movies here that we know, is Venom misunderstood as a character?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like the ending of this, like Venom 2, kind of depicts that. There's this quote that that Eddie Brock uses where I think it's truth is the enemy of fact, or fact is the enemy of truth. one of those variations. And it's like the reason why they have to leave, right? Because in the context of the film, and we see, I guess, what the truth is, which is that they're, you know, fighting bad guys and they're trying to do good, kind of vigilante style. But because just by like, you know, just looking at him, they look like a villain. He looks like a villain. He looks like Carnage, who in this case, in this film, was the villain. So I think he's kind of like that. I forget what I'm trying to think of, but he is put into that category of like essentially being marked as a villain before people can really look at the things that he's doing. He's an what's the term? Anti-hero, anti-villain.
Like I wanted to say that.
Anti-hero,
Just because even without this second Venom coming out, the term anti-hero fits because Eddie Brock, the Eddie Brock that we know in this universe is a good guy. Like, he doesn't know Peter Parker. He's going through some hard times. He's going through a breakup with his ex-fiance or whatnot. We don't know him to be bad, and it's like he is keeping Venom at bay to be a good bad person. You get what I'm saying? It's not really
to stay off the radar
exactly.
A little
Not
bit,
to be out here as like a serial killer, but he's actually out here taking out bad guys and defending the good, you know? So this Venom right now that we see, like initially before these two came out, I would always think that he's a villain, but now it's just like you see this breakdown at this party where he's wearing all the
party
the glow
scene,
sticks and everything like that, and he's going. The Venom is going off. He just on some. I don't want to say he's angry at Eddie, but when it comes down to their relationship, you can see that there's a bond. He's sad. He's missing his friend, and he's not a bad guy. He without Eddie, he's not in this party eating up everybody in a costume. He just wants to chill and hang out and be out in the open and be cool with everybody, you know? So that was one thing that I did take from this movie.
Absolutely. And I think in earlier episodes, we talked about how this would potentially come about, you know, Venom and Spider-Man sharing the screen together. And in this context and the way that we see him, because you're right, in the comics, traditionally, Venom and Eddie Brock are, you know, enemies of Spider-Man. There are series or occasions where they do team up, kind of like temporary alliances for, you know, whatever reason. But in this case, they don't have like any previous beef, right? So like our Peter Parker doesn't know Eddie Brock, doesn't know Venom. They're not even in the same age range the way we see them in the original Spider-Man trilogy. So I feel like it would make sense for them to team up in this film. Just because there's no like prior beef for them to just go off of, right? And then they already have. Oh, go ahead.
No. So just off of what you're saying. So the super team against the quote unquote Sinister Five is MCU Spider-Man with the other two Spider-Man and Venom.
Yes.
Versus the bad guys. That's what you're gonna call it.
Versus.
You're gonna
That's
throw
what
it
my
into
heart
existence
wants.
like that.
This is how we get things to happen, man. We talked about Venom and Spider-Man combo, and now we see this post-credit scene. Come on, like the energy's there.
I gotcha. So say, I think this is the last and final question I had in my notes as far as just with Venom. Like, I have other topics to talk about, but let's say now that the multiverse is here, okay, and Venom is gonna somehow meet Spider-Man. Let's say this symbiote, is that what it's called, a symbiote? Or symbiote, right?
Yes, so he's a symbiote, but the actual I guess like species that Venom is, I have it written down because I was like going off on this earlier myself, trying to see what they're called. Oh, Clintar. So the planet they're from is Clintar, and that's the same name of like their species or race, if you will. But they're also symbiotes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So say this symbiote and the Iron Spider merge, okay? Because we have an AI, aka Friday, that's controlling the suit, or could control the suit if she wanted to. And we have Venom that would possibly more so be controlling Peter Parker. Now, I'm curious just to see if there will be an instance of AI versus symbiote, and see if there is any type of situation to where Peter Parker can't control anything. It's just two beings going at it with Peter Parker's
Right.
body.
Quick correction. I think it's I think Peter Parker's AI is Karen.
Oh, it's not Friday?
No, not Friday. It's Karen. Because when he, I guess, quote unquote, meets his like AI, right, given to him by Iron Man, he's like, "Oh, what do I call you?" And then she tells him like, "Oh, whatever you want." He's like, "I'm gonna call you Karen." Okay. And so, gotcha. Yeah, that's Karen. Yeah, I see what you mean. Kind of like in Age of Ultron, where we see Jarvis and Ultron kind of like having a conversation going back to back, and then something of that sort. I think that'd be kind of cool to see on screen. Yeah. I feel like, and something. No Way Home is going to be a long film. I think I saw it quoted somewhere that it's going to be longer than Infinity War, or just around the same time run. So they definitely have the time to squeeze in a lot of storyline. But I'm like, how much is going to be squeezed in? Because I feel like the task was already pretty high with the 3 Spider-Men, and then the Sinister 5 or 6, and now we have Venom in the mix. And so I think I'm excited, and they did state that this is going to be one of the most ambitious films done so far in the MCU. So I feel like this is like not just a Spider-Man event. This is kind of like how in Captain America Civil War, it's a Captain America film, but it feels much more of an Avengers film. You know what I mean? Like that taste, that feel. So that's the film I'm super excited for, and we're gonna get it like in just around the corner now. So this is awesome.
All right, so moving forward, I kind of got some of that multiverse stuff out of the way. I do want to talk about Woody Harrelson for a second, okay? AKA Kletus Casady in the movie. And I don't know how old Woody Harrelson is in real life, but he has been acting forever, and he's one of my top actors. Like, he does so many different types of roles. It's never really like a typecast. It's like, I feel like he just acts for fun, like doing some stuff from like Hunger Games to I don't know if you've seen
Zombieland.
Have you seen Anger Management at all?
Yes, I have.
He was like a security guy / prostitute in that movie. It's like he plays a whole bunch of like randomly fun roles.
I forgot all about that. Yeah.
So when it comes down to him playing Carnage, especially Cletus Casady, I feel like I don't know anybody who could have played this role differently. This is something to where this character, I can imagine. Yes, in the movie they mentioned that he was known for murdering his family, and he's low key kind of crazy, and I feel like Woody actually like fit that to a T. Like he made it believable. He made it. Well, first I noticed that there was a difference in what he looked like in the original Venom. Like I'm kind of glad that they got rid of that curly hair look, and they more so went with like a shorter straight hair, because that looked better. If they kept that curly hair, then I don't know, that would have been too much over the top. So for me, I feel like he did a phenomenal job playing this. He's just a man trying to get the love of his life, and he had to bond with, well, he didn't have to, he didn't do it by choice, but he bonded with Carnage to get her out, so it was low-key kind of like a crazy love story on his part.
Yeah, I think he brought to life the sociopath or psychopathic behavior wrapped up in this one character. I think the like physical changes from how we see him in the post-credit scene of Venom, and then this one, I agree, so much better, because I think with the huge curly hair, he looked too cartoony. Whereas in this one, like he's a pretty scary character, and I think he brings it up really well. But I think it's also believable that he just kind of wanted to make friends with Eddie. Like I feel like that was kind of believable. And there was like I feel, but I want to say this very shyly, like there's a warmth to him, even though he's clearly a very like damaged individual.
I don't want to say evil, I'll say damaged, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on, he was abused by his dad. Like this was like, he had a really, really rough upbringing.
So kind of tell me, like, because you sent me this image of the comic of It says Carnage Rising with Eddie Brock in like it looks like a straitjacket on a table. So kind of dive in to tell us what this is all about.
Yes. Okay. Let me see. Okay. Is this the one that I sent with like the Francis Barrison? Yes.
No,
His
no. This is
soulmate.
the one where he's being walked with security, like he's on
Oh,
a
okay.
table.
Actually, yeah. Okay, so that's actually is aligned with the Francis Barrison one.
Yeah.
So that comic scene that you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
right now with him walking with
Mm-hmm.
security, that's in the comic where we're first introduced with Francis Barrison, who's his love interest in the film and in
Yeah.
the comics. And so they take that pretty much to the T. But the reason I brought that up is because Francis Barrison, right? She has these like sound wave powers, and this is kind of like a first introduction to mutants post
Oh snap!
WandaVision, and this is pretty big.
I was
So I
curious.
wanted to break
Yeah,
down a little
yeah. Like
bit.
say in the
Yeah,
movie, it was just like, oh, her powers are growing. Like when she was a child, I'm just like, where do powers come from? You know?
and there's no explanation to it other than just like she is what she
Right.
is. And then when I looked into her character, so it's confirmed. So her name, Frances Barrison. Her name is also Shriek. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like her what's the suitor
Yeah.
name? I don't know. She first appeared in the Spider-Man Unlimited in 1993, which is where that little snippet where you see Kletus like being walked down by
Yeah.
security. He essentially like breaks her out, and she decides to kind of link up with him, and they have this huge rampage, and they essentially kind of collect other villains under their wing, and they're set up almost like a family where they have like a mom and dad
Yeah.
role, and they kind of look at them as like their younglings. But Shriek is a mutant. Like that is on like that's what she is. And I think in the film they even use the word mutation,
Okay.
like something to the effect of like, oh, her mutation has evolved or become stronger. And before, I mean, this is a Sony film, so they've been allowed to use the word
Yeah.
mutant, right? For that's never been a
Wait,
contractual
no,
issue.
pause.
But
Is
now
that
that this
true?
is,
Just
yeah, go
because
ahead.
mutants are or were owned by Fox, so that is
Oh, just kidding. No, you're right. You're right.
okay.
Yeah, I was mixing the different properties. So yeah, so we've had the MCU used now mutants,
Yeah.
right? In WandaVision, we're hearing it here in a Sony film that's connected to the MCU. So it's really kind of outlining or weaving together the introduction of
Okay.
mutants, right? People who are just born with these special abilities, where you don't have to have like this explanation of how they became what
Right.
they were. A big difference between her in the film and in the comics is that in the film we just see her with like that sonic
Yeah.
beam
Yeah.
power, like that. But in the comics, she also has some form of like empathic abilities where she can affect people's emotions or almost like mind
Oh, really?
manipulation. In the comics, she uses it to the extent of even getting parents to want to kill their children because she always wanted to be a mother, and she's like, "Damn you all for having kids already." So she's a very troubled
Yeah.
character, very much like Cletus and Carnage. So they're a very well paired little
Oh
trio
yeah,
there.
definitely. Say just their relationship in the movie, or I won't even say their relationship, the acting in the movie. I forgot her last name. I know her name is Naomi, but she is an awesome actress as well, you know. And I remember I think the first time I really saw her was Pirates of the Caribbean. She was the
Yes.
voodoo person, Calypso. And then it wasn't until recently I randomly watched the movie 28 Days Later, and she was in that as well. And that was like an older movie, so she's been getting those acting chops in for a while. And say her coming in initially, I didn't put. Of course, I wouldn't have put two and two together when that cop mentioned that he thought that she was dead, but just her thought process, at least by like say over the years, I don't know why she had that vengeful thought of getting back at the cop. You know, it wasn't like he fired.
Like
Yeah, it wasn't
vendetta
like
against
he
the
fired
cop.
on
Yeah.
her on purpose. He like didn't the car flip over and he just happened to get a shot off. Like I feel like it was an accident. You know,
Response, yeah, like
right,
kind of a response to her
right,
actions because she
exactly.
caused the
That was the only.
I have some thoughts on that
Oh,
though.
go
I
ahead.
do.
Go ahead.
I feel like that's probably just. I think it was to highlight the cop. Because I think he probably has a much bigger role to play down
Okay.
the road, maybe in a Venom 3 kind of a
Mm-hmm.
film. You do see him at the very end with like the glowing eyes after his like interactions with
Yeah.
Carnage, Shriek, and all of them. So I feel like that was more so maybe to highlight his
Uh,
character, so we would notice that cop and kind of have him on our
yeah.
radar. So when that end scene comes around and his eyes are
Mm-hmm.
glowing, we can kind of start like drawing the connections and all of that.
Well, I've named this picture.
And I did that. Go ahead.
It's
Yes.
Mulligan,
Go ahead.
aka because his name in the movie was Detective Mulligan, and then I said aka Toxin. So kind of tell me, is Toxin an offspring of Carnage or Venom? Like, do you know off the top of your head?
So yes. So Toxin was birthed from Carnage essentially. And so the way it's kind of laid out is as if Toxin is Venom's
Oh wow.
grandson, and his name was actually given to him by Venom. He kind of named Toxin after
Mm-hmm.
himself, right? Venom, Toxin, that kind
Mm.
of thing.
See what you
Uh,
did there.
Car- there you go. Carnage wanted to kill Toxin essentially like from as soon as he was
Mm-hmm.
created, but he didn't get a chance to because he connected with Detective
Mulligan.
Pat Mulligan. In the comics, I think he's just a cop. In the film, we see him as a
Mm-hmm.
detective. So I think that's what the blue eyes are trying to lead
Right.
into. So I sent you a couple of pictures. I think it's little
Yeah.
snippets from Venom versus
Mm-hmm.
Carnage Volume 2, 2004 run. And that's where we see him essentially be created. So he's a spawn of Carnage, and Carnage and Venom both believe him to be the strongest of their kind,
Wait,
which is why they
Toxin? You're
were
saying?
trying to. Yeah, so both Carnage and Venom believe that Toxin is like going to be one of like the strongest of their kind. He does end up finding crime with Mulligan alongside Spider-Man and the Avengers up until Mulligan
Okay.
dies in battle, and then he kind of hops onto like different bodies in the comics. So I think that's going to be how we see it in the films. Like maybe we'll see him come up again in Venom, 3, and then maybe Mulligan's gonna die in Venom 3, and then we see him attach himself to a different
Right.
body. So that's kind of my assumption.
Okay. Can we talk about what is the woman's name who works in the store that Venom loves?
Oh, Miss, hold on, I have it here. I have it. Give 1 second. We need to give her the
Oh,
respect
for
she
sure.
deserves. Full name and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Mrs.
Yeah.
Chen. Mrs. Chen. So you're at Mrs. Chen's shop. Yes.
Man, like say initially, like when Venom showed up in that other body from the party, I was assuming, being that he was dying, he was going to attach to her. But it was
Mm-hmm.
just how I forgot the girl's name who was his ex fiance or whatnot. She was just looking at Mrs. Chen and
Annie.
was just like, "Wait,
Mm-hmm.
hold up, hold on there."
You're a little
Right,
defensive
right,
there.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and yeah, it was just wild that like uh just what the CG effects that they did to her, having her have like the Venom eyes or whatnot. I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Mhm. That was a really fun. And then Annie kind of rubbing at Venom's ego
Mm-hmm.
to get him to come and help
Yeah.
Eddie. That was a really fun scene. And it's not in that particular scene, but since we brought up
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Chen, at the beginning of the film, we did get a little bit of a Stan Lee
Mm-hmm.
tribute. Unfortunately, obviously, because of his passing, we can't get that traditional Stan Lee
Yeah.
cameo
Yeah.
that we've
Yeah.
expected over the years. But he still made a little introduction. We see Venom and Eddie walking past like the front of or like the start of the
Mm-hmm.
store, and then there's a magazine cover and we see
There he
Stan Lee, so
is.
it's a nice little tribute for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like if anything, they should continue to do so just with the movies going forward. Um, Cameos aside, it could just be like a, I don't know, just a picture, just to kind of pay homage to Stanley. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a really good tie-in. So that was really cool. But Mrs. Chen, she's awesome. I love how she's like all, because obviously she's only getting Venom's side of the
Mm-hmm.
story, so she's defensive
Yeah.
for him, but then of course Venom is adding into that with like just inhabiting her body. But I have a
What's up?
question since we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about that. If Annie didn't come and then take Venom from Mrs.
Mm-hmm.
Chen, would Mrs. Chen also have died like the other people that Venom inhabited? And you know what I mean?
I
Because
feel like
he got
just to our understanding in this series so far, I feel like Eddie Brock is the only one compatible. So I mean, even if
Compatible
like,
enough,
because
yeah.
even if Venom stayed with Annie, I feel like it may have come to the point to where she may not have survived or whatnot. So as of right now, I'm just coming to the belief that right now, Vinny, Venom and Eddie.
Is that their cute relationship name? Is that
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is?
yeah.
Vinny?
They are the most compatible together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it seems, just on that note, it seems like maybe compatibility will also equate to like the length of time that Venom can inhabit that body before like negative things
Right.
happen. Right? Because in Eddie's case, I'm assuming because they're just so compatible that they're able to exist as
Mm-hmm.
is without having to, go into a different body. But and that is something that they mentioned in this film, right? That's one of the reasons that they were able to defeat Carnage, who in all ways is pretty much superior to
Right.
Venom. He's a red
Mm-hmm.
one. He has all these other like appendages. He grows apparently with like every head that he bites
Yeah,
off.
like yeah,
So
like
it
I
was
noticed
really
that he was
their
getting
like their
huge
bond.
just towards the end of his run, you know? Like he just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. But I think that's all I
Yeah.
got for
Oh,
Venom.
definitely.
What
Oh
about
no,
you?
that's everything.
Okay.
Cuz right now where are we at? We're 40 minutes in. I got plenty of time. How good are you
Oh,
on
we're
time?
doing fine.
Perfect. So,
Man, I got nothing.
I'm just going to sweep over into this transition. Give us 1 second so everybody can see what's next. Boom. You already know what's next. It's actually going to be the last 2 episodes of the What If series. Okay? So, we've talked about episodes 1 through 7, so all we have left are episode 9. No, 8 and 9. So, I'd like to start with 8. Episode 8, which is What If Ultron won? Okay? And I've thrown the image that Marvel Studios threw up. I don't really like that image that they threw up on their Instagram of Ultron. I don't know, it looked a little bit too cartoony. I'm going to throw some images up a little later. Like, there's some graphic artists that actually made an Ultron image look pretty dope with the actual actor's face from Vision. But anyway, episode 8. Let's start with he has defeated the Avengers. Then we see a cut to a portal opening up from the Space Stone. And who do we see walk through? Thanos, right? And I'm already just like, oh shit, it's about to be a throwdown between Ultron and Thanos. And not just a regular Ultron. You know, this
Finally.
is just like
Yeah.
uh, a vibranium Ultron. Because say when it comes down
Juiced
to
up. Yeah.
Ultron, let's talk about Age of Ultron for a second. Out of all the Avengers, that's my least favorite Avengers, just because I feel like Ultron didn't come off like he should have. I feel like he came off softer than what he was in the comics, and say even the trailer, there are a few things in the trailer that didn't make it in the movie that made him seem super evil. Where in Age of Ultron, he became super comical, you know. And here in this episode, we get evil Ultron. And this is, I feel like, if anything, yes, Ultron is one and he was able to make the perfect body for himself. But even if he didn't make the perfect body for himself, I feel like this character, this personality that we saw in this episode is the Ultron that should have been in Age of Ultron. But I don't know. That's what I feel. What do you think?
There's definitely a big difference between the those two Ultrons. I feel like when you watch this episode, you automatically want to watch Age of Ultron
Mm-hmm.
again. I know I did. I think I watched it like several times just because there's a lot of things I was kind of tying
Mm-hmm.
together. That's one of the things I definitely noticed. And I think the reason, first of all, that you see a difference between the Age of Ultron, I'm sorry, the Ultron we see in Age of Ultron and in the comics is that in the comics, Ant-Man, I think Hank
Mm-hmm.
Pym's Ant-Man creates Ultron. In the film, it's Tony. And so in the scope of the film, it's kind of outlined that he's almost like like Tony's
Mm-hmm.
son, right? Like they make
Right.
little references to call him like his dad and this kind of stuff. And then there's a lot of ties between their
Mm-hmm.
personalities, and that's why he comes off a lot more like playful and
Yeah.
lighthearted, very similar to Tony. There's like a specific scene that comes to mind. It's like when
They're in
he's like, oh,
Wakanda on the ship, right? Are you talking about that scene where
uh
like
they're not in Wakanda. It's not Wakanda, but we're talking about the same scene. It's when they're, it's like this facility where they have the
right,
vibranium,
right.
right? It's, yeah, if claws there, all of
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, that's the scene we're talking about. And then they make a joke and something about breaking eggs, and then Tony's like, he beat me by two
Right,
seconds, you know?
right.
And so they make those ties specifically because he was made by
Mm-hmm.
Tony. So that's why there's a difference between the film Ultron and the one we see in the
Okay.
comics. In terms of like the difference between Age of Ultron and then this episode, I don't know what the difference is. Maybe it's because he's seen his goal essentially met. He has the time stone, right? Because he didn't have the time stone embedded in him at any
Right.
point in Age of Ultron. So maybe that's what made him a lot more of a serious villain. I'm cool with either one. I like the goofiness of the one we see in Age of Ultron.
Well, let's see. Let me stop you right
But
there. Just
yeah,
because, say, the Age of Ultron goofiness, right? Like that's the Ultron we got, right? And now I'm gonna pull up an image of the Ultron that was in this episode, to where back to Thanos walking through this portal. Ultron gives Thanos one look, not shook, and he's just I think all he said was like, interesting, and then
yeah,
saws Thanos in
done.
half like it's nothing. Like Thanos didn't even put up a fight, like, because he could have with whatever stones that he had, but all in all, the quote unquote fight lasted 2 seconds.
Less than a second.
Right,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So this Ultron, even before having the stones and this happening in this episode, is already telling me that this is a different Ultron from what we got in the movie. So,
Mhm.
I think I had one other image. Let's see. Oh, never mind. No, that's not it. Was it? Oh, yeah, it was the one that you sent. It looks like Ultron is surrounded by just many copies of himself, like sitting on a throne of robots. Can you dive into that real quick?
Yeah, so that's actually yes, that's from I believe the first issue of a 5 issue run that came out in 2014, so a year before Age of Ultron
Okay.
actually. That's called What If Age of Ultron. So especially it initially outlines what the basis of this episode
Mm-hmm.
is, which is if Ultron
Mm-hmm.
won, right? The events are very different. Don't align too much with what this
Right.
episode does, obviously, because this episode sets up the Guardians of the Multiverse. But it's a kind of a sweet parallel that I found. So I wanted to show you guys those images because it seems like this is a comic that they pulled a lot of inspiration from for this
Yeah.
episode.
So say now Ultron, he has all the stones, and the Watcher, um, he just happens to be in the background. He happens to be doing one of his monologues of just talking, and he's like, "Oh, this is this reality, da 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 da," and then
Narrating,
out
yeah,
of
yeah.
nowhere, like, I don't want to say, I almost said Thanos, but Ultron was just like, oh, what is that? What is that noise? You know? And
Hmm.
so right now in this instance, uh, we get something different from what we know of what happens when you carry all 6 Infinity Stones. So now,
Hmm.
Ultron, he is aware of the Watcher. He somehow sees and now is aware of the multiverse. And this, I feel like the only thing that we knew before about the Infinity Stones were, honestly, I thought it was just like a genie on your hand. You snap your fingers and then boom, like any wish you
Hmm.
want comes true, you know? But
Yeah.
now it has given Ultron the power to travel into the quote unquote multiverse.
See, I have a question
Mm-hmm.
on that. I'm wondering more if it's not necessarily having the 6 Infinity Stones, but that along with the fact that there's literally no more noise of in that universe at all because he's demolished
Everything. Mm-hmm.
everything. That has then given him the ability and awareness and consciousness to sense the Watcher's presence, and then obviously find out that there is, a universe or multiple universes beyond his own. So I think it's a combination of having the stones and having had accomplished what he did that gave him that like
Yeah.
consciousness. Because otherwise, I feel like that's something he could have discovered way before him having had destroyed all the other planets in that particular
Right.
universe. But either way, he has the awareness of the Watcher. He has awareness of the multiverse, and now the threat is like even bigger than what the Watcher could even have like foreseen, because he is shook. Like, I think that scene was so juicy to watch, is like him having that like monotone narrating and all of a sudden be like, oh
Right.
shit, like
Right.
he sees me.
Now this is the only issue that I have. Even though I loved episode 8 and 9, I do have a wrench that I want to kind of throw into this. Now, as far as the Watcher, can you tell me what the Watcher is? Is he's not like an Eternal? Like, what is the Watcher? Because I know he's part of many Watchers. What is their race in this story?
From my understanding, their race, I think, is equal to how the Eternals are in terms of like their power, their influence. Because in the comics, the Eternals and the Watchers actually have a lot of conflict. So it leads me to believe that they're somewhat like matched foes for
Mm-hmm.
each other, to be having a lot of conflict throughout the
Mm-hmm.
comics.
But he's
Um,
nowhere on like
but
the level of what's Peter Quill's dad? Like, what type? He's not like a god, but like um
he's a god, lowercase g.
yeah.
Yeah, and he's a well. I think he's supposed to be. I might be quoting this wrong, but I think he calls himself an
Okay.
eternal. But when they said that, I don't know if they had already had the plans to actually bring about the Eternals the way we're
Okay.
understanding them and the way we see them traditionally in the
Right.
comics. So he seems to be like a lesser. I would definitely say he's lesser of. So no, I would say the Watcher is definitely above the power of, say, Peter Quill's dad, like that extent, but equal to maybe what the Eternals are going to be when we see them in the
Okay.
films.
So here's my issue. Okay, because say the Watcher in itself, he is the Watcher of the multiverse, right? And
Mm-hmm.
hold on, I do want to throw the image up of the Watcher real quick. All right, so with that being said, we have already had an instance of an organization that watches the multiverse. We know them to be the TVA. And now with the TVA,
Mm-hmm.
we know that the Infinity Stones are powerless. Now, when it comes down to the Watcher versus Ultron, I'm really having a hard time grasping why he is not overpowering the Infinity Stones, being that the Infinity Stones have zero effect in, let's say, a dimension that watches over multiple universes. Does that make sense as far as what I'm saying?
No, it does. It does. In terms of like, how is it that Ultron is able to not just be able to go up against the
Right.
Watcher, but go against the Watcher and be
Right.
winning? And I think the reason is because of intent. Because keep in mind, the Watcher makes like a comment of saying like, you don't even know like the extent of my will or my
Mm-hmm.
abilities, because he doesn't use them, because he's not meant to interfere. He's not meant to, you know, that's part of his oath.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get to his oath in a second because I want to bring that up
Okay.
again. But so I think because the Watcher isn't meant to do things of action, right? His role is just to observe and like narrate the
Mm-hmm.
stories essentially. And then Ultron's goal is to demolish like everything. Well, his goal is peace of our
Yeah.
time, right? But I think that's why the battle ends up looking the way it does, is because of intent and like their goals of what that is
But
about. Because I think if the Watcher
mm-hmm.
tried with like his full power, then maybe that wouldn't be the
But
case.
with
You
that
know?
being said, now I'm going to throw a different battle into play here, and it's not a battle that's happened on screen. But let's say this is the Watcher and his abilities versus Kang. Now, when it comes down to, I won't say Kang, but he who has remained, right? This character so far, we've known him to pretty much tame the multiverse, right? He's developed this dimension to the point to where the Infinity Stones are powerless. So, if what we're saying right now were to come into play, I think that this character, I'm gonna call him Kang, would be a better match up against an Ultron, being that the stones wouldn't have any effect, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I'm wondering, do the stones not have an effect on I'm just gonna say Kang, but He Who Remains, or do they not have an effect on the property of like the TVA? You know what I mean? Like the entity of the TVA or the location of that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like I wonder if that is within the scope of like you're in the facility of the TVA and those items don't work because they're not necessarily within a reality. They're in this little like bubble. Or is it against Kang? Or you know what I
Right.
mean? So that would be my
So
question.
that was my
Yeah.
only thing as far as this Ultron versus the Watcher. I was just wondering, like, why is the Watcher playing with him? Why is he not like overpowering him just because of the position that he's in right now? He has, like, I feel like he was called the Watcher to watch all of these universes, but he can't just be there as just,
And do
yeah,
nothing.
just a
Yeah.
watcher. He had to be put in that position, but have some power to not, I don't want to say control the universes, but to maintain. And that's what episode 9 eventually came down to an end. It's just like he's more so now the protector of all universes, you know. So that's something that I took from episode 8, but I do want to move right along into, actually, before we get to episode 9, one thing that I caught, and I know when I was watching it with someone else, they caught what I caught, which was the Watcher. They were fighting. The Watcher lands on this one planet in some whatever dimension, and you see Ultron's face, huge face, and at first I honestly didn't think it was Ultron. I swore it was Galactus eating a planet that the Watcher happened to be on, you know. So I couldn't tell if that was just like homage to Galactus, because we have yet to get him in the MCU. I know we got him in the Fox property, which was barely. I don't even want to get into that, but just that scene alone, it just looked like Galactus was swallowing another planet, you know. So I wonder if they did that on purpose.
Yeah. I know that was what a lot of people were like had parallels to, right? I mean, it was meant to be Ultron,
Definitely.
but I think it was purposefully like a parallel for sure, you know? And before we move on to episode 9, I wanted to bring something up because I've seen it like on the internet a lot and it's been bugging me and I gotta say it. So you've correctly called Ultron Ultron in the I'm sorry, not the comics. On the internet, I've been seeing a lot of people refer to him as Vision or use Vision Ultron interchangeably, and I just want to say you're wrong because this is not Vision whatsoever. I feel very defensive about this. So I just want to make it very clear for like those of you guys watching, because Ultron, having accomplished his mission of getting this body, led to Vision never being created, because Vision, and I'm obviously preaching to the choir because you understand the difference, but Vision is a mesh of the Stone, Ultron, Jarvis, Tony, even Hulk, right? So that is a completely separate being to what we see here. This is Ultron in a new body.
That
there
is
you
not
go.
Vision.
Come on.
Just because the one thing that it's a question that I've had since Age of Ultron is we never got a name. Like he came out of the egg he hatched, and he fought alongside the Avengers,
the cradle,
the cradle, and then Ultron he meets him and he says my Vision, as in, oh, this was supposed to be me, you know, because he wouldn't have called himself Vision. He would have called himself Ultron in that body. So for y'all that's calling that body Vision, nah, sorry, it's not.
Yes, episode 8, Vision wasn't ever made. This is all Ultron's clear distinction because
Oh
in
yeah.
episode 9, which we're going to get into, we see obviously the zombie Wanda going up against Ultron with all the stones. And a lot of people were like, ooh, this is like, Wanda versus Vision. No,
WandaVision.
it's
No,
not.
it's not. Yeah,
So
nah.
that was something I wanted to bring up. And also the
Mm-hmm.
last thing, right? Because obviously all of this is driven by episode 8 and 9 was all driven by Ultron's objective, his mission, which is peace of our time.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have like a little fight to pick with that because
Okay,
he
do it.
constantly uses peace of our time, like peace interchangeably with silence or quiet, right? And that's something that he criticized Thor about in Age of Ultron, because I think Thor makes a statement of if you truly want peace, then help us keep it. And then Ultron replies with, I think you're confusing peace with quiet. But then in this episode, that's literally what he does the entire episode, because he constantly will use peace and quiet interchangeably as if they're the same thing and objective. So I'm just picking a bone because this is all against Ultron. I'm sorry.
I got you. No worries.
Yeah.
That's all good. Hey, if you need to vent some Marvel stuff on
That's
here,
all I needed
just
to
go
vent.
ahead
I'm
and throw
sorry.
it on out there for y'all
That's all I
Vision
needed
people
to
out
vent.
there. Nah, it's Ultron. Get it right. Anywho, all
All
right.
right.
On to episode 9. Episode 9 is what if the Watcher broke his oath. Now, episode 8 ended with the Watcher. I don't want to say losing the battle with Ultron, but he just took a timeout.
Losing the battle with Ultron.
Nah,
Yeah.
he took a timeout. He needed to re-strategize. He was just like, all right, I need to come up with a strategy. Let me just see what this other Doctor Strange is talking about. Which I honestly I wasn't expecting to see Strange at all. I thought after episode 4 that was the last I was gonna get of depressing Stephen Strange. I was hoping to leave that in the past, but they somehow brought him back. But he was needed, and he ended up being the quote unquote savior at the end. But in episode 9, we get the Watcher, and he doesn't create the Guardians of the Galaxy, but what do they call them, Grace? Go ahead and throw it out.
The Guardians of the Multiverse.
The Guardians of the Multiverse. Now, when it comes down to who's in it, we have Killmonger, we have Star-Lord T'Challa, Captain Britain, Thor, Gamora, and Doctor Strange. Was there anything else? Am I missing anybody?
I think you got them all.
Okay, so now when it comes down to let's start with strategy, okay? Because we get young Gamora here, and nope, that's Killmonger. Sorry, guys. I meant to put up Gamora and the Stone Destroyer. Here, there it is. So we see her. She has a device to where it supposedly destroys the Infinity Stones. Okay, now you may hate me, Grace, for what I'm about to say, but I feel like that was all Gamora contributed to this episode. I know you love her. I know you do. She is great in every other thing we've seen her in, but all I got here was Gamora in a Thanos suit and her bringing the Stone Destroyer. I feel like I really didn't get much. If we were to compare her to Widow or Captain Britain, then those other two stole the show. I'm sorry.
So I'm gonna fight, obviously.
Do it.
So I agree. I feel like she didn't have a lot of contribution to this episode apart from that, and I'm wondering if it's because of COVID. A lot of things needed to be changed. One of them is that there's a lost episode of Gamora that we didn't get to see.
Correct.
We've seen all of these other characters in their own respective episodes, so we have some type of an understanding of what their stories have been and their sector of the multiverse, but we don't really get that same feeling with Gamora because we didn't have her episode. So unless I'm mistaken, I believe that's something we're going to be exploring in season 2. So I think that's something that they moved, and I think as because of that, maybe that's why we didn't see so much of her in this particular episode. So
Gotcha.
I'm just gonna leave it there.
Okay.
That's all I gotta say.
I know you're gonna back your homegirl up. Hey, if you could can you show your Show your tat, your
My
Gamora tat.
so you guys
Nah.
obviously see my background, right? Like I have her on my arm.
Yep,
I'm a
yeah.
big Gamora fan because
I
she's
know that's your girl.
everything I'm not and everything I
Hmm.
aspire to be.
So
Like
when
my
it
personality is more of a Peter Quill, 100 and 1,000%. I will never be the coolness of what she is, but still I love her.
but as
Yeah.
far as Gamora is concerned, all I can say was or is that I was just expecting a little bit more. Um, being that this Gamora, she has knowledge of the stones or whatnot. It just turned out to be almost like a buzzkill to come to find out that her stone destroyer doesn't even work on the stones that they wanted to try it on, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like with that with that happening, I feel like the only thing to the destroy stones would be I guess the stones themselves, because that's what Thanos did in
Right.
Endgame, or the TVA little glow sticks, because that destroyed the stones in that universe as well. Like it destroyed that
Right.
cabinet, right? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I would have loved to see more. I would have loved to see Gamora, because they were fighting over that Soul Stone just like on the ground for it was like a long sequence. So I was hoping, if anything, she could have destroyed one, but it just came down to the point to where none of them were destroyed. You know,
You
off
know,
a
and I
technicality.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I would have liked to see more of her. I think that's where we didn't see enough of her is because of the fact that we didn't get her episode. So maybe there were
Mm-hmm.
some things that were left on kind of like the cutting room floor,
Right.
or in this case, the drawing board. But
True.
there's a lot of really cool parallels, I think, in the entire What If series. And I think these last two episodes had a lot of parallels as well to things we've seen in the films. I feel like the destroyer, the Infinity Stones destroyer. Initially, when I saw it on screen, I thought it was the weapon that they tried to use to destroy the Power Stone in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. So it was like, oh,
Rocket.
it's not going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
work. Yeah, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. I was like, oh, so it's not going to work. But then it's like kind of labeled what it was, and I'm like, oh, it's not that. But
Mm.
then it ended up essentially delivering the same way it would. Right? They
Right.
expected this to be the thing or the answer to get rid of the problem, and then it's like, oh no, that didn't end up working. So I thought that was kind of a cool parallel because initially that's what I thought it looked like, and so the fact that it kind of followed through to be just as much as a letdown,
Yeah.
I think kind of meshes the parallel together. So I'm not sure if that was an intentional parallel that they were trying to make,
Yeah.
um, but it's kind of, I think what if anything has like served is it's outlined a lot of rules to the multiverse, especially because we're diving into that in on screen. You know, that's going to be what we're venturing into. So it's outlining a lot of rules. Like, oh, okay, so apparently, like, you know, the stones have some type of organic differentiation from universe to universe,
Right.
like different things that might become important for future films. So it's kind of cool to see that there's a lot of rules being outlined in a sense, or just things like that.
Okay. Say I want to. I'm actually going to bring up the image of. I sent it to you. It was the quote unquote realistic image of Ultron with Zola on the body, right? I didn't get a chance to find an image from the series, so I found this from this artist that I found on Instagram. But I do want to talk about Zola and how he has survived for so long in this whole series, because we've known him since Captain America: The First Avenger, and he's still out here uh, being a villain. Now, when it comes down to it, has he, or do you know if he is a huge villain in the comic book series?
I do know that this image of Zola, where he like shows up on like the stomach, is something we see in the comics. That's like actually like a direct draw from the
Oh, is
comics.
it?
It is, yeah. So I know that his I don't know what you would like to call him, like this form of him like moving throughout history in code, right, living in essentially inside of a computer,
Yeah.
does come up in the comics. I'm not sure to the extent. It's not really something I've looked into like detailed wise,
Yeah.
but I feel like this is setting up him being somehow reintroduced, maybe in Captain America and the Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
season 2, something like that. Maybe he's aligned with like the Power Broker. I don't know. But I feel like we're going to see him again in the films and other TV shows, just because like he's come up a lot of times, and now we know that another imprint of him exists
Right.
in the Siberian headquarters,
Right.
right? So I feel like we're gonna see him again for sure because he does play a role.
Wait, so do you think it's easy to speculate that? Because say right now, in Captain America: Civil War, we know of this Siberian place. Do you think
Hmm.
there is a possibility of some organization just kind of keeping Zola off to the side, like say finding him, and then later on we'll find out that they have him and he becomes like a big bad or something like that? What do you think?
Right. I feel like that's something that we could see. Because this Siberian facility, we saw it, like you said, in Captain America Civil
Right.
War. I guess from there you can question, like, okay, just because they exist in these two universes doesn't mean that in the universe that we've known, Zola is also in that database. But I think it's plausible to say that he could be, right?
Yeah.
Being that his mind was so important to preserve that they put him in one secret bunker, it would make sense that they'd have a backup,
Right.
and what other place but in Siberia where they were holding the other Winter Soldiers. So I feel like it's possible. I feel like it would make sense.
Okay.
And also, since we saw, Red Skull appear after like so
True.
long, we
True.
saw him first, and I feel like maybe bringing back some of these villains we've seen previously, but maybe in a different form like this, is something we could probably see in the future.
All right. So, sorry, I'm kind of fast forwarding here. So, say we get this battle of say Zola has this battle with Killmonger. Now, I'm going to bring this image of Killmonger up with the Infinity Stones. Now, I believe, or just from what we saw in Black Panther, we've known him to be an elite special forces person, and episode 5 or 6 we see him here working with Tony's, and now he as if they make it seem like he's on the same level, or maybe like a level under Tony Stark as far as smarts go. And now in this episode, we see him toying with a head of one of the robots from Ultron, but it was more so to configure it so he can become, or so he can wield the Force Stones himself. Now,
Right.
this is where I get confused because of all of this, right? I've never really thought him to be super smart like that. And no diss to Killmonger. I'm not trying to diss him or whatnot, but this is a fact that it wasn't known, and then they just kind of threw out there in What If.
Yeah.
So.
Well, just to kind of dispute that, and keep in mind, I do not like Killmonger.
Okay.
Like, he's great to see on like screen, and by that I just mean like Michael B. Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Like to see him come back. But he gets me so mad because he's so efficient at being bad that it's like he so easily can get
Right.
what he wants, like what we see in that particular episode, and like gets me angry. But keep in mind, this guy, like, he graduated early from MIT. He is not just like an elite like special operative, but he is very smart. And keep in mind, he has an awareness of like the technology from Wakanda, right? He knows about vibranium. His father taught him those things. So I feel like it would make sense for him to have at least enough of an understanding to create something that could harness the stones, especially because Ultron's exterior, like his armor, is made of vibranium. So I feel like he would be considered somewhat of a specialist when it comes to that.
Gotcha.
So in my mind, I feel like it tracks and it makes sense because of that.
Did that the CIA guy from Black Panther, did he say that? Did he happen to mention that? Do you know off the top of your head? As far as like him graduating from MIT, because I know he was just like, oh, he's one of ours, and he's done all these like Black Ops or whatnot.
Yes, it was. They mentioned it in Black Panther, and they also mentioned it in his particular episode when they kind of gave his introduction.
Okay. Well, then this episode, it ended with him going head to head with Zola, and they're just battling over the stones. Now, With that, I get that they were trying to separate the stones from both of them, but I thought that this episode was going to end with the destruction of these stones and the Watcher putting everybody in their respective universe and leaving these bad people on whatever, because they're currently on Widow's universe where everything is destroyed or whatnot, you know. So that's where I would have thought they would have left it, but they left it to where Strange ended up. Would you say that's a mirror dimension? He kind of just made like a mirror dimension and kept them locked in.
Yeah, it seems like they're like in a condensed mirror dimension little prison that now Doctor Strange is responsible of just kind of like making sure they stay there. Yeah.
Right. So he just basically to guard that for all eternity, being that he's in a prison all by himself to his undoing.
That's what it seems.
Pretty
like,
much. Okay,
you know,
so
he was
since you're here,
he was pretty crucial to
right.
saving all of the all sectors of the multiverse, and this is kind of his reward. But maybe it's still part of his punishment for dooming his own universe. You know, so yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that is everything that I got just from these images. But as far as these episodes as a whole, episode 8. Or I would say even with 7, the Thor episode, at the very end, when we saw Ultron for the first time, I knew that something was coming. Now, I don't want to say that we've argued, but I am going to say that I mentioned that these episodes were going to somehow come together, and then you were like, oh no, they're all separate stories, and then I'm sorry.
Oh, hold on. No, you said this to me in person, and I'm like, you know what, I think we need to rewatch our episode, and let's refresh. So we were debating on how these 2 episodes would like come around, right? Are they just going to be independent episodes? Are they going to somehow bring together little things that we've seen already? Are they going to be, and one of the questions was because, especially with the Killmonger one, you're like, it seems like it's not finished yet. And I think a lot of these, it's true to say that. So we were like, oh, are we going to get like a part 2 to these episodes? But we were talking about how with 2 episodes remaining, that's probably not likely. So it's either going to be a continuation in a way that encompasses a lot of like the different episodes we've seen, which is what ended up happening, or we're just going to see like 2 separate individual episodes. I did like with what we ended up seeing.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey. Let's keep you in check here. You're like, I am superior and Grace is wrong.
I'm not saying that you're wrong, okay? I'm not. I'm just saying that we were both right. Can we both be right? Can we agree?
Hold on. Yeah, we can agree we were both right, but that's not what you first said. So that's why I'm like, wait, hold on, I gotta come in here. So I did like that this is the approach that they took, and I did like the way that they wrapped it all together. Because in episode 8, it's episode 9 when we start bringing in all the people, like you were chosen to create the Guardians of the Multiverse. We see them essentially kind of in the middle of what would be their part 2, or the events that we previously saw them in, right? So in Killmonger, we see him about to be taken down by Pepper and Shuri. We see T'Challa, having just rescued Peter Quill from his father, that kind of stuff. Like, so I like that because it gave us that satisfaction of seeing some of the continuation of the stories we saw, because a lot of them were almost like cut as events were happening.
With that being said, I actually, one thing that I really enjoyed was the fact that they brought this Widow to the world to where it was Ant-Man that killed all the Avengers, and then Loki had pretty much taken over the Earth, and we dive right into the Battle of Earth from Fury just fighting all of them, and then Widow comes up. He's like, oh, I know you're not my Widow, but you remind me of her or whatnot, so I like that they ended it with bringing her back to this reality,
Because it would have been so sad if they just left her to be by herself in not just like her own planet, but by herself in the universe with no one else. So I like that ending for her. Something that was really satisfying about episode 8 and 9 is we got a lot of really like small snippets of Red Guardian references. We got him referenced when we saw the shields, Alexi, and then we saw his Peggy mentions that when she's trying to link up with Black Widow, because Black Widow doesn't know if they're a threat or if they're on her side yet. Kind of one of the things to get her allegiance, or to be like, oh no, we're on your side, is your father is Ivan, your da is Alexei, and then they mention in episode 8 that facility that they went to in Siberia is also where they were trying to create the Russian like super soldier program. So that was really cool, especially post Black Widow and us understanding more of her backstory. It was a cool little tie-in to that stuff. So we got that was a really nice little fun filler throughout.
Yeah, and one thing I think the last thing I got that I noticed in episode 8, we got to see Ultron go up and destroy many civilizations, but say when it comes down to all of these civilizations, we wouldn't have known any of these without Guardians of the Galaxy, because say Guardians of the Galaxy I feel like is the first title that we get that kind of goes intergalactic as far as like space travel. It's not on Earth, it's just out in space, and then we get to see him destroy the Ego planet. We get to see him destroy what's the other planet that was on the first Guardians?
I got the list. Let me just pull it up so I don't get them wrong. Okay, so we obviously see the Sovereign. That's the one we see in Guardians of the Galaxy. Right. Volume 2 and then Xandar is the one that we see in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Exactly. So we see the destruction of both of those. Yeah. And then on top of it, because prior to Guardians of the Galaxy, the only real introduction we had to other worlds beyond ours, in our universe, was with Thor, right, and Asgard, and knowing that there was like the 9 realms and all of that. But we did see the destruction of Asgard and Sakaar in this one too, and Sakaar is the one that we saw in Ragnarok. So yeah, all of those worlds were done.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that is everything that I got. I just wanted to mention that because like you, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was just fun to see all of those kind of areas just pop up in that one episode that Ultron just happened to destroy. But I thought it was cool. Whatchamacallit, Captain Marvel gave him a fight, which was kind of crazy. I was expecting her to do a little bit more damage than what she did, which was maybe little to nothing. But all in all, she did a great job, and I don't understand why she couldn't have came from maybe like another universe. The Watcher could have brought her too, just to kind of help fight this ultimate Ultron,
Yeah, because I think she's the one she was the closest one next to Wanda to defeating Thanos in Endgame. Right. And then in this one, she's the last defense essentially before he finds like the ultimate peace, right before he discovers the existence of a multiverse. Right. So it makes no sense, but I'll play along. Yeah. I'll play along. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I believe that wraps up everything that we got for today's episode. For everybody tuning in, again, this has been a recap of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and What If episodes 8 and 9. And Grace, go ahead and get your outro out real quick.
Thank you guys. This was lots of fun. What If was something I always thought I was going to enjoy. I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy it. And I think it's going to outline a lot of things to come for the MCU. And obviously we're going to get a season 2. But thank you guys. This has been a great episode of the CCU.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you all again for tuning in, and we will be back. We will let you know the next time, Grace, you and I were going to chat.
I know we got to get the agenda out for you guys. We'll give you guys a calendar. Right,
we kind of planned out like all of September and October, so we have to plan out the rest of October and November, December. So I know we got some DC things coming up in the future, and maybe like a few Marvels. I know the Eternals come out in November, and then No Way Home is November as well, or is that December?
That is December.
Okay, so we got some planning to do. So y'all keep it locked. This again is going to be, not only streamed, but it's going to be posted up on YouTube. If y'all search the Comic Cinematic Universe, you'll find it there. If y'all missed it, just watch the playback, because I'm telling you, we let off some juicy stuff earlier today. So Again,
Some
thank
steam.
y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we will catch y'all on the next one. Y'all have a good one.